Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'll be doing the ultimate liquid cream bronzer and blush breakdown because I do have a lot. And if you guys been following me, I think ever since I transitioned back from university and my skin condition, I focused a lot on my skin. I really prioritize using cream products ahead of powdered products, and that's simply because it just looks better. It's virtually, if you get the right product, it's virtually undetectable, like if someone's just looking at you. So as in, my philosophy of makeup is really just to look as natural as possible and to look like yourself, and I feel like cream products are like so good. So that being said, I am gonna go with the cream and liquid bronzer category first, and then we'll go over to the cream and liquid blushes. I'll be doing swatches on my hands and just talking about them, and yeah, let's just get into it. We have so much product. This is gonna be a long video. There will be timestamps in the description box and in the comments, so please click the timestamps and come back to this as in when you want to like relook different things. Alright, so for bronzers, there is like lots to talk about, but I'm gonna go with my biggest category, which is the cream stick category. So with bronzers, it typically comes in a lot of like stick formats. You can see here I do have like quite a number. Cream bronzers come into play. Packaging really matters to me as a consumer because it would then be pretty easy to apply and also just very functional in its use. So the stick format really is all about, you know, swiping it on the cheeks, or you take it directly from tube itself and apply it on the face. I like to do both methods, but really when it comes to stick, it's all about, you know, the very chiseled contour, you know, swiping it in the hollows of the cheeks and bronzing all over the face. The first one I'm going to be talking about, which is my all-time favorite, and I'm just gonna start out by saying that because it is something that I've used constantly, and it's one of those products that I always go back to, and it pretty much is almost done. It's from Nudestix. It's the all over face color in Bondi base specifically. So I'm just gonna do a quick swatch here. I will do close-ups really soon, but it looks like that. Not sure if you can see from that distance, but it's a super creamy opaque formula, and they do have other shades. The only unfortunate thing about this is the price point. In Singapore it's like really expensive, and to me, like, you know, a lot of people would feel like it's very cheap packaging and it's just like not really worth that price point. But if we're just talking about the product itself, it's super creamy. This shade is like gold. It's super flattering, and I feel like it really suits light to medium skin tones. I am an NC20 when it comes to MAC, so this is why I really like it. It's really blendable. It's not like a matte flat finish, so it will give you that little bit of a shine, even though it does say that it's their matte formulation. I think it sits more like a satin, if that makes sense. A satin matte. It's not super velvety that it's like, you know, feels powdery. It's really a true cream. Okay, so the next one that looks similar in terms of packaging but isn't really is the NARS Multiple. It also is pretty pricey, but they do have like one or two shades in the bronzer category. This one's in Cappadoce. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but it also looks like a twist up format. The only other thing about these cream sticks or creams in general is that, you know, hairs get stuck in it. So what I like to do is use like a cleansing wipe or use a tissue just to cleanse it now and again. I feel like the Multiple is a true matte cream, so as compared to the Nudestix one, it has a little bit more of a creamy glossy texture, and it's pretty stretchy also. But the NARS Multiple really has no trace of a shine, so it sits on the skin like a from a visible length. It looks more like a powder if you didn't really think of it as a cream, because it doesn't have any real gloss or shine. So that being said, to me, I prefer like that glossy kind of cream product, but this is also really beautiful. As you can see, with a single swipe, it's super pigmented, and yeah, it blends out really well. Next would be from Laneige. They only have one contour shade, I believe, but this is their duo contour stick, so it has two tones. So the top tip is a little bit of a warmer shade and the bottom is a bit more ashy, but I'm just gonna try to mix it together. I feel like this definitely is more for light skin, not so much medium. But yeah, not sure if you can see, but I didn't really mix the two tones very well, but I'll show you guys in the close-ups. I would say for this stick format, I don't really like it entirely, simply because it is a pointed tip and I feel like every time I use it, the tip always breaks. But I really like the bottom half because it is an ashier type of cream shade, and what it is basically just to give you more of that shadow effect rather than the full-on, you know, orangey bronzy effect. Shade selection really sucks, but the cream is also that kind of glossy-ish finish, so I just really like it. It's right here. I like it simply because it's hard to find a cream contour shade that has that ashy undertone sometimes, so I really like to use this for, you know, chiseling out the nose. Next one would be a pretty popular one, which is the matte bronzer from Milk Makeup, and it's the most like chunky kind of packaging and it has the largest quantity, to be honest, but when you twist it up, it's super big. So the only thing about this is that you're not going to get that precise contour around your nose, but it's going to be a very good all over bronze. A lot of people like to use this on eyeshadow brushes and put it in the crease as well. You can do that for all these products. That's how versatile creams are. But this has the warmest undertone, I feel. You can see even with a regular swatch, it's so thick. I don't know how to describe it, but it's really thick. It has the warmest undertone. It's a one shade universal. It claims to be universal, but yeah, that's the downside to this because it really only matches medium light skin tones, like not even dark medium skin tones, so that's really unfortunate. Our makeup stick is the most comparable to the Chanel Soleil de Chanel. I think it's this one right here, which I'll talk about later in a different packaging. But yeah, I mean, what can I say about the Milk Makeup one? It claims to be matte, but actually I feel like its formulation is not that mattifying. The NARS Multiple is definitely the most matte out of these bunch. Color, if it matches you, go for it, because once you blend this out, it also looks very natural on the skin without pulling too glossy or too greasy looking. So yeah, the last one from the stick category would be from Fenty, the Match Stick. Unfavorite this recently, but I still have it. So this as a matchstick is gonna be a hit or miss for some people, because I feel like this formula works great for makeup artists who really need like product that can last for a very long time. When you warm up the stick for the Fenty matchstick, it looks great, but I would say that it dries out really quickly, so it's one of those cream products that don't exactly maintain its freshness for very long. I feel like the Nudestix one I've had forever, but it's still so creamy and so buttery every time I use it. But yeah, I do like this because it is like one of those smaller bullets. But other than that, I would say that the color selection is the main thing about this that is excellent, because it has shades for women of color. Like, truly, by that statement, Fenty is the only brand that caters for a multitude of skin tones. I would say that in terms of formulation, the NARS Multiple as well as the Fenty Matchstick is the most similar, because they pull, like, they don't have this glossy finish, unlike the cream variation, which is apeshit glossy. But yeah, the Matchstick is more, it pulls more matte and it pulls more opaque, so you do have to be careful. I feel like even when I blend it on the skin, I really have to prep my skin pretty well for it to blend seamlessly, versus, you know, just slapping it on and just hoping that it will turn out to be like very diffused. This takes time to work with because it's so opaque and it doesn't have that much kind of moisture in it. But I just run down all the sticks again. The first one would be the Bondi Bay, the second one would be the NARS Multiple, and then the next one would be the Laneige stick. The fourth one here is from Milk Makeup, and the last one would be the Fenty Matchstick, which it performs very similar to the NARS Multiple. Basically, I'm just going to transition in from the Stix to the compacts, and I'm going to start with making a very close comparison to two Fenty brands, because it can be a little confusing if you're like choosing a cream product from Fenty and like, okay, should I pick the stick or should I pick the compact? But basically, I did a swatch here, so I'm just going to show you the difference in terms of finish and blendability of the two. But I would say that I have the stick in the shade Mocha and the Cheeks Out compact in Butter Biscuit, and I would say that Butter Biscuit in terms of shade pulls a bit more orange. But I'm just going to talk strictly about formulation for these two. Like I mentioned earlier, this one does not have that much moisture into it, so it's perfect for very precise contouring because you don't want it to slip and slide too much. You really just want to mark out the area you want to contour and just very lightly blend. Going to the Cheeks Out format, this formulation is everything I look for in cream products. Seriously, hands down, if you're not gonna get anything, get this. You're settled. It's a sheer to buildable formulation. In the swatches you see when I really went at it, which is a couple of swatches to get that full intensity, is pretty pigmented, but like how cream products go, after you blend it out, it needs to be sheared out to a certain extent. And I really like this because I'm a person who likes to apply my cream products with a dual fiber brush, so I don't necessarily need it to be in a stick. So I go in with the brush and I just kind of like swipe it on my face, and I love how this blends out to like a very sheer finish. So it pulls creamy and doesn't really set down to a matte finish. Alright, so going back into the Fenty Cheeks Out Butter Biscuit Cream, I'm gonna do a swatch and we can talk about the next one, which is gonna be the Universal Chanel Cream Bronzer, which is honestly, it's gonna be a, I would say it's more like a European favorite because Chanel has it following more from the British side of things, and a lot of British influencers talk about it. So the Soleil 10 de Chanel is that kind of cult favorite. It claims to be universal, but clearly it isn't. It really only sits with medium skin tones and light medium at that, not anything darker. Maybe if you're like an NC 40 at max, or honestly not great in terms of the shade selection. But the formula is what I want to talk about because it is very, very stiff. I mean, it's very stiff in a way that if I press my finger down into it, it's not gonna cave in like a mousse. So it's pretty stiff, but when I rub my finger around it, it tends to melt and it performs really beautifully. I really like how this cream performs, is what I'm trying to say, because it has this very like slippy texture. So side by side with Butter Biscuit as well as the Chanel one, I would say that formula, unfortunately or fortunately, Chanel has the better formula, but it doesn't have the better color, so which is why I really like the Fenty one ultimately. But it has a very slippy texture, and this honestly, no matter how much you leave it out in the sun, which you probably shouldn't, but as much as you know you can, the packaging will naturally dry out the moisture, but this honestly is so solid. It isn't drying whatsoever, and someone needs to crack the code and produce it in multiple colors, or Chanel themselves should do it. But it's so firm, but once you just like swipe in with your finger, it feels super slippy. Huda Beauty, a lot of people really like this. This is the Tantour cream. I have the shade Light, which is pretty dark, so that's promising. But this has a more creamy texture. It's not as firm as the Chanel one, but it also is like a very emollient texture. So I would say that, I mean, in the pot it's a little softer than the Chanel one, but once you blend it on the hand, it feels the same. It's like very, very emollient. So as a light shade, you can see it's really not that light. It's super deep and dark. So this really caters in 3 ranges, the light, medium and dark, so you can definitely find something for your skin tone. I would say that the only thing about the other one that I don't really like, which is why it's my least favorite, even though it has a good shade range, is that it is not entirely shearable. So if you were to apply too much, there's no going back, and the color itself pulls very cool tone, so it's all about chiseling out. For the Huda Tantour, how I like to use it as someone with my complexion is to apply this before any foundation product, so that if you do make a mistake when you apply concealer above, it balances out and also doesn't make it look as pigmented. So really, this is not going to be a bronzing product. As it says, it's a Tantour, so it's more of a contouring product. But even then, you have to be pretty skilled in contouring if you want to use this, because like I said, there's no going back. But yeah, I would say the shade range is great. But I mean, if they came up with something that looked in terms of shade like the Chanel one, then maybe I would like the formula, because the cream itself is great. It's just the shade for me pulls a little bit too much of a contouring type product, which I typically like to bronze and contour with cream products. Alright, last but not least would be the liquid formats, which I also classify within creams, because some of these formulas pull a little bit more a thicker type of liquid. So the first one I'll be talking about is the Contour Wand from Charlotte Tilbury, and it comes in a really interesting packaging where it's the only product that has a cushion tip applicator, which I'm not that much a fan of, unfortunately. I don't know why. I think it's pretty unhygienic to have it like that. But that being said, I really do like the Maybelline Age Rewind in a cushion tip format, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I find at least for contouring it's pretty messy. Even now I have to like clean it up every use. So packaging is like really not great. This liquid is a bit more cool tone, so also once it shears out, even though this formulation really gets pretty sheer, but it doesn't give you that nice bronzing effect. It's more of a, you know, if your skin tone matches it, then yes, it will look like a bronzing product. But for me, it really pulls like a contouring product. So I do like put 2 dots here, very precise dots, and I blend it out just to give me that kind of very chiseled cheekbone effect. But I still have to go over with a bronzing product to keep it cohesive and to give that natural sun-kissed vibe. It's more of a skincare product to me, but I really like to use this as a mix into my foundations. But I also do like to use like an overall bronze, which I have today. I'm using this, and yeah, it comes with a pump. Liquids, I prefer a pump type of application. So this one has shimmers in it, and it's a very warm kind of product. Just imagine a serum. I'm swatching it right now. Just imagine a serum texture, full load of bronzing pigments. It doesn't have noticeable glitters, but it's kind of metallic-esque, if that makes sense. And it's very warm, so I like it for my complexion, and you can see it's just really subtle. What I did was, because with liquids you can't really be too precise, I applied it underneath my concealer and then I balanced it out accordingly, so that gave me that natural like flush of warmth underneath my makeup, rather than, you know, all over bronze on top of your kind of foundations. You can do the same with all these cream products, but in terms of liquid, that's primarily how I like to use it. And the last one is the Laguna liquid bronzer. I love this color. It also is the other product that says that it's universal, but obviously it isn't. Again, what I like about it is the color, and if you guys like the Laguna matte bronzer or the powdered bronzer, then you will really like this shade. It's the same as the compact version. It's the most cool yet warm tone type of shade. So the only thing about this pump in particular as compared to the debronzy is that it always gets clogged up at the tip, so like you will get like really hardened type of liquid that comes out, but once you squeeze past that, what's inside the bottle is really yummy. Yeah, this one doesn't have that much of shimmer particles or anything like that. It's not that glossy, and it's not, surprisingly, it doesn't really feel like too much of a liquid, because it also, once it sets down, it pulls a bit of a like satin-esque finish. So I really like this because it's like in between of those two. It's a little warm, a little cool, and you can use it as a mix-in product. And because it doesn't have shimmers, it doesn't really alter the formulation of your foundation if you want to mix it in. In terms of Laguna, it's definitely darker than the Chanel one, so I would say that in terms of its finish, it looks very similar to the Chanel one on the skin. It's just that if you have a darker complexion, this is one to consider. Alright, so the first one here is from Nudestix, is the Bondi Bay Cream Contour product, and the middle one would be from Fenty Beauty. It's Butta Biscuit. You can see it pulls a little bit more cool tone than a typical warm kind of a bronzer. And the last one would be Laguna, and as we're speaking now, it has already set, so it's like that kind of satin matte finish, and it's like really firm. So once you blend it out and let it set, it really doesn't move for an entire day. But you can see this is the kind of color selection that I prefer and that suits my complexion, and I can apply it as an eyeshadow as well, so it's just really good. So these three I would highly recommend. Okay, we've hit into blush. So cream and liquid blushes, my favorite thing ever. I think that, I mean, what else can I say? When it comes to liquid and cream formulas, it's excellent to have, you know, a flush of color that actually looks like a flush of color you naturally would have. Especially like, you know, if you've been drinking too much, you have like that natural rosy flush. If you're in the sun, you have that natural rosy flush, and it's a flush that is like from within. It's not gonna look like sitting on top very artificially like a cake of powder. So that's why I really like cream and liquid blushes in general. So there are three categories here. Similarly, it's going to be the stick format, the cream compact, and the liquid version. So we're going to start with the Stix because it's the biggest category ever. Okay, similarly, I'm going to kickstart with the Nudestix, and Nudestix actually has come out with two different types of blush formulations, actually three, but the third one is a more liquid type. For the cream stick, have the Nudies Matte and the Nudies Bloom. The Nudies Bloom is actually a more like emollient texture that pulls more glossy. So the first one I'll be swatching is the Nudies Matte, which looked very similar to Bondi Bay earlier in terms of a formulation, but with a blush, I would say that this formulation is really pigmented, so you have to be really careful. This is the shade Naughty and Spice. It's exactly the same in terms of what I mentioned about Bondi Bay. It's super opaque, it sits on the skin very creamy, it doesn't set down to anything, so there will be natural like transfer, but it's the most natural in terms of like that, how it sits on the skin. It almost feels like everything meshes together with your foundation, so it's really great. But you only really need the smallest amount, you don't need to go crazy like this. And the Nudies Bloom in Cherry Blossom Babe is a more dewy formulation, and I'm going to swatch it this side. It pulls more sheer. I would say that this formulation is very comparable to the Fenty Cheeks Out blushes because it has that like dewy sheer appearance, and once you sheer it out, really, even if you go heavy-handed with the Nudies Bloom, it still is sheerable to the point where you can get it to look lesser. A comparable one to the Nudies Bloom in terms of its glossy finish would be from Milk Makeup. I don't think it's... oh yeah, it's called the Glimmer Glow Oil Lip and Cheek. That's a long name, but it's a multi-purpose product. All these things are multi-purpose, but for this product to actually work, because it does look super pigmented in the bullet, right? But see, as a swatch, it doesn't really like appear that much. But when you pat it onto the skin, it has this kind of like dewy quality. Like it mentioned, is pretty much like an oil, but like this is the most visible results in terms of pigment. The formulation, it is pretty slippy. Like it mentions, it is a solid oil type of formula. Alright, the next one would be from NARS. It's their NARS Multiple in the shade Martutani. I'm really bad at pronouncing, but I really like this shade because it is similar obviously to the NARS Multiple, the bronzer shade, but this color in particular is like a really good in-between in terms of a bronzer blush, if that makes sense. which actually Nudestix has a lot of colors that pull like red so that it looks like a bronzer type of blush. But yeah, look at it, it's like a very nice terracotta, very orangey type of blush, but it looks very warm and it's very pigmented that honestly if I use this I wouldn't use a bronzer. But yeah, I just love this color. It's so rare to find such a beautiful color. Similar to the multiple earlier I mentioned for the bronzer, this one is not dewy, super pigmented. Once you really have to work at it to blend it out, but it's honestly like foolproof. Like this would be the least transfer in my opinion, unless you're like vigorously rubbing your face. But yeah, because it's really matte and it sets down pretty quickly, so it's really nice. The next one would be the Beach Stick Lip to Cheek Dewy Colour Pop from Charlotte Tilbury in the shade Formentera, and I like this simply for the color, and this is the only kind of cream product I have from Charlotte Tilbury. Unfortunately, this formula is very patchy. Hopefully in the close-ups it will do a little bit better. This is the closest it gets into that kind of balm formulation, like a lip balm, which is why it pulls a little bit patchy. It's not like a swipe of color that is opaque. This is great to have as like a lip balm. If you just want a quick pick-me-up and just swipe it above your makeup, it's really good for that. Alright, for Milk Makeup, their original kind of cheek product, this lip oil is a development from this and rival the Nudestix kind of family of things. But it is like this one shade. I do believe they have other shades as well, but this shade for me is something that I wouldn't use very often. I mean, it's in the shade Work. I wouldn't use it very often because it's very pink and I don't really like to look very pink. I like to look a bit more warm. So similar to the bronzer, this has a creamy texture that is a little bit tacky. It looks a little bit tacky but isn't super dewy, so it's a very nice in-between. So it's not going to be something like the Nudies Bloom. It's very different from the Milk Makeup lip oil, so it's not going to be a lip oil. It's finish that actually feels very much like the Fenty cream blush, but like I mentioned, I prefer this formulation in a bronzer because my blushes to be a little bit more matte, if that makes sense, and a little bit more pigmented because I use very little and I just want to get it done very quickly. Alright, for cream compact or pot variation, I have these two, and I will talk about the comparisons to the Fenty Cream Cheeks Out, which is one of the highly raved products, right at the end when I talk about my favorites of all the blushes. But this is in Rose Latte, and I'm just doing a quick swatch. Similar to the Butta Biscuit bronzer in the Cheeks Out format, it's like looks really pigmented but it can be sheared out really beautifully, and the color selection is great. I know a lot of women of color who reviewed this, especially Jackie Aina. She was just talking about how she expected it to be like really bold, and on her skin like a lot of the colors did show through. It at least did show through, but the unfortunate thing was that it wasn't like really bold and like what she expected it to look like, because it does look really pigmented in the pan. But like I mentioned, it's a sheer to kind of opaque formulation. But yeah, another thing is that if you do want something that really is super opaque, then go for the Matchsticks format. Even though the Matchsticks don't really have blush colors, they really have like illuminators or like an orange shade with a whole load of shimmers in it. So it's more of that like highlighter blush equivalent. It's not really like a straight up blush, but I really do like the Cheeks Out for the blushes because finish on the skin, on my skin, looks super juicy, and if I'm not applying any like moisturizer or anything and I just put it on the skin, it has that like very subtle gloss and dew on the skin without looking too overly done. The next one is from Air Perez. In my latest organic video I talked about it. It's in the shade Healthy. It's their Carrot Colour Pop. RMS also has like their version of these, but I feel like all of them really perform the same. Super pigmented, you can see, and actually it's a lip and cheek product, so it's like really beautiful on the lips as well. But it also shears out really nicely. It doesn't set to any kind of powdery finish, but this is definitely more pigmented than the Fenty one, so you could consider these if you're of a darker skin tone and would like that really pigmented cream product. Alrighty, the last and final category would be the liquids, and yeah, I'm gonna start with M Cosmetics. This is in the shade Sunset Sky. Packaging is honestly so cute. Unfortunately, I don't really like, I mean, it looks great aesthetically, but I don't really like this dropper thing, because if you get a defect, how are you gonna suck up the product? And basically I've been having that issue. I had to like flip it the other way and like dispense it onto my hand, and it got really messy, because with the liquids you don't really need that much. So you can see, I'm not sure, but it's like very sheer and it's not exactly buildable in a sense. So yeah, it looks like that. My favorite liquid type of blush formulation would be from NARS, and oh my gosh, these liquid blushes, legit I had to ship them from overseas because like it was love, man. It was love. I knew I would like it because I knew I liked the Laguna bronzer, and gosh, this is like a beautiful color. No noticeable like shimmers within it, but it does kind of end up to be a little bit more satin also. It's not like super dewy or oily or emollient. It's just beautiful. What else can I say? I'm just gonna talk about the Nudestix plush pins. I know it says lips, but they frequently advertise this as things you can swipe on your cheeks and on your eyes, and I pretty much love these for that purpose. And this is the shade Waikiki Rose. Let me tell you, this packaging is genius. Obviously it looks like a gloss and things like that, but in terms of a kind of you don't need to get your fingers too messy, just swipe it on the cheeks. So it is pretty pigmented, but it's very blendable, and on the skin it actually pulls to look very velvet. Like once you like tap it on the cheeks and blend it out with your fingers, it looks very velvety and it doesn't have that much shine, even though when you touch the texture it actually feels very emollient. So the next one would be Ilia. It's their Color Haze Multi Matte Pigment, and it comes with like this very cool cooling tip applicator. It's like a thick balm. It literally looks like a lip balm. It's super pigmented. It's not like the M Cosmetics one, which is a little bit more serum like. This one is really thick and it has a balmy texture to it. Woo! Yay! We reached the last one. It's from Chantecaille. It's their gel cream blush in the shade Lively. It comes out like a gel. It's also really creamy like the Ilia one, but it's more sheer, and I feel like it's a sheer but even pigmentation, unlike the M Cosmetics one. Because it's a liquid, it's harder to manipulate. Such a beautiful orangey shade, and it's a true orange shade, so it works really well, and it's not super pigmented, but you can get a very even pigmentation if you blend it out really evenly. But yeah, I just really like this color, and it's super hydrating. Okay, so my favorite cream blush formulations and products would be from number 1, Fenty, the Cheeks Out. So shearable, you can apply it on top of powder and it looks great. The second formulation that I like is from Nudestix, Nudies Bloom. It is very comparable to the Fenty Cheeks Out. The last one that I really like is also from Nudestix, which is their plush lip paints, which also can be used on the cheeks. Okay, and that's the end of this ultimate cream liquid bronzer and blush video, and I hope I never have to do this again because it's so long and there's so many products, and I feel like honestly my explanation may not be great because like a lot of this it really comes down to a tactile touch, but I hope that my comparisons between certain brands, or like actually all the brands, gave you a perspective of, you know, what you need to be looking out for when it comes to cream and liquids, which is primarily with actually everything that is blush and bronzer related. You really should pick by color and then pick on ideal formulation that suits your skin. So those are my really quick tips. I would say that for me, because I am oily and I do like that kind of vibrant appearance or radiant appearance, I would pick something that's not too dewy and pick the colors that suit me. So like I mentioned, I'll leave all my favorites in the description box that you guys can check out. And yeah, let me know if you guys want to see like side by side detailed swatches. DM me on Instagram and I will just do like a quick swatch for you to see before you make your purchase. But yeah, just follow me on Instagram and we can chat more about your favorite cream product formulations. And if you have any questions about it, please leave it in the comments below and I will do my best to get back to you. Yeah, especially like if you're someone that's contemplating like milk makeup versus Nudestix, which should you get, like yeah, I would definitely give you my honest opinion about it. But I hope this helped and I hope the swatches were good enough to show you at least like whether or not it was patchy, whether or not it applies smoothly. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!